Issue 265 Reboot. So even though Sonic's being electrocuted, he's still able to stretch his arm and smash it through the thing doing it. Even though being shocked by definition makes you lose control of your body. And he's clearly in pain from it, so it's not like he's immune to electricity now. So that was dumb. And it's only a few panels in. The writer wrote himself into a corner here. The only way the heroes could have escaped this situation would be if Sonic stopped getting shocked, even for a moment. But considering that's impossible to completely drain a Chaos Emerald of its energy without going negative superform with it, it would have been confusing if the machine ran out of electricity when powered by an emerald. There's also the plot hole that Sonic should have stayed paralyzed for a while after he wasn't being shocked anymore. And he wouldn't have any rings anymore at this point. That's why he was in pain from being shocked in the first place. And again, he should be paralyzed so he wouldn't be able to put up his shield from the werehog levels. So I guess he throws something at the tower they conveniently got. Maybe that narrow panel that was way too close up was trying to tell me that he was grabbing something to throw. He rams into Eggman's soldiers and punches the helmet off the bad guy, who's somehow stupid enough to insult Sonic and say he'll pay for humiliating him, when he could clearly kill him right here and interrupt him. Sonic runs after him, as I think that makes perfect sense for him to be acting angry. Both because of the dark Gaia energy that made the citizens of Meropis nastier, it'd be idiotic writing if he was magically immune to that for no reason. And because he and his friends were shocked earlier. So even if he wasn't turned into a werehog, he'd have every reason to be mad at him. It'd make no sense if he wasn't. I don't know why Amy thinks they should stop Sonic. They want to help him, but how are they supposed to do that? They don't have a way to shoot a ray at him to turn him back to normal. And they just immediately have total faith that they'll be able to help him. Mighty says he'll go after Sonic, as I'm immediately angry that I'm expected to root for this unlikable bad guy to be rescued. Well, it was sweet of Mighty to help Ray up. But come on, that guy sucks. He actually reveals he can shoot energy at Sonic, which makes sense for someone working for Eggman. But now I'm just wondering why he took so long to do this. He doesn't say that he's been charging it up this whole time. And I'm forced to assume Sonic absorbed some rings into his aura since he started chasing him, and that's why the energy didn't just kill him at this point. Then he gets mad at the bad guy for endangering the animals around him, so clearly he still has a soft side if he even cares about the animals at all. Fleetway Supersonic wouldn't. The bad guy threatens them and wants them to beg for mercy, being written as a drooling idiot since he clearly knows Sonic can extend his arm and is too mad at him to do that. This guy's just another asshole. I fully root for Sonic here when he grabs him in his fist. This is actually better writing than Fleetway Supersonic had. First of all, he's not so insanely overpowered that I'm wondering the entire time why he doesn't kill everyone around him in seconds. Because it's not like he still has a super speed, and he doesn't have the ability to fly on top of that. So it wasn't contrived the whole time that anyone around him stayed alive. Especially since he cares about the animals, so he clearly has a soft side. So it would make sense for him to hold back a little bit. And second, his dialogue is a bit better. Supersonic roared too, but it didn't match his design, so it made him look stupid, like a little kid playing with a dinosaur toy trying to make it sound scary. This guy looks like a monster, so of course he's roaring and acting angry. Supersonic was angry too, but at least the werehog isn't having stilted, over-the-top dialogue where he says that his hatred consumes him and he must find something to destroy. As if we couldn't have figured that out from his actions alone. Mighty frustrates the audience by preventing him from killing a bad guy who just threatened to barbecue some animals. For all he knew, that was going to lead to him immediately using his energy weapon on all of them. Why did the werehog let go of him just because Mighty pushed him over? This behavior of Mighty would have been justified perfectly fine if someone said after he decided to go after Sonic, that Sonic would hate himself for killing someone after he turned back to normal. So Mighty's doing Sonic a huge favor here by preventing him from feeling bad later. Sally could have explained that even if this bad guy died, he'd get replaced anyways. And so killing him wouldn't make a positive difference. He'll just be replaced by another bad guy. So Mighty does have good reasons for doing this. Mighty says that he's being unlike himself, and he doesn't have to go after the bad guy because he saved them all. Wait, that's a girl? I was supposed to think of that thing as a girl? Wow, that design really sucked. There's no way Sonic would just sit there and do nothing, instead of immediately going back to fighting Asshole and ignoring Mighty. Mighty could be saying this while holding Sonic still. He could have stayed on his back after he'd be lying down on it after he jumped into him from behind. Instead, he's standing up the entire time. Why in the world isn't Mighty saying the obvious things instead that anyone would think to say? He seriously expects that to be a legitimate argument? Why not, I'm stopping you from making yourself feel bad later, or the bad guy will get replaced with another one anyways. Instead, he's a moron who's totally okay with the fact that they'll fight her another day. And he says that he knows what it's like to have too much power. How stupid is he? How is Sonic overpowered right now? If anything, he's overpowered when he's not the werehog. The werehog is underpowered. You always have to hit Dark Gaia monsters more to beat them than robots. He's lost his super speed. How is that making him power crazy? He's not supersonic. Talking is a free action here, and I'm supposed to take this seriously. Sonic wouldn't listen to him talk this much. Mighty somehow expects him to want to go talk to Moss. Out of complete nowhere, we see Sonic's point of view, and inexplicably he sees Mighty as evil looking, and he hears him say that he needs to step back. He's called a freak, and he totally gets him, and he's someone who's crazy. Well, that is what he's saying. He's not actually delusional with that. It's just him being more negative. He naturally hits Mighty and slams him into the ground, but since Mighty's having such stupid dialogue instead of just running away, or knocking him out, I find that satisfying, and that's how bad the writing is. He hits Mighty away as Mighty tries to stay patient with him instead of running away like a real person would. He dodges his outstretched arm, and out of complete nowhere, he thinks that Sonic wasn't fully corrupted. What is he talking about? He didn't see him defend the animals, so that's not it. He says he knows he's strong enough to overcome this and fight the urge, and it turns out Sonic just hears him as insulting him. Shouldn't it be obvious to Sonic that he's being fed false information from his brain because of the transformation? Since Mighty looks different here with his tongue? I admire how gutsy the writing is right now. It's dark, but it makes sense. Why does anybody think the reboot isn't dark and edgy? But I've seen this idea before. Tails tried to talk Supersonic out of it too, twice. Why are the heroes trying to run over to Sonic? I guess in case Mighty of all people needed backup. Sonic takes offense to being told he's ashamed of something. This is much more logical writing than Unleashed had, where Chip told Sonic he was magically immune to any kind of personality change for no reason. Sally reasons that because Sonic is known for doing what he thinks is right, the infection must be corrupting his perception, and so he thinks Mighty's in the wrong. This was a waste of a panel. Of course he thought that. Anyone would while brainwashed. Of course, this whole story is forced anyways, because there's no logical reason for Dark Gaia to want to do this to Sonic or anybody for that matter. It's not like Dark Gaia can see Sonic, and therefore is plotting against him actively. He's just a dumb monster in the core of the Earth. Why is his energy making things more evil? This would have been written more naturally if Eggman made Sonic like this, on purpose. At that point, Penders wrote this better. When he had amnesia and Eggman made him think his friends were evil, then it made sense that he was corrupted. Sally tells Ray to stop Mighty, and tells Amy to follow her lead. So she's gonna be actually smart, and be vitally useful in a way only she can be. What's Tails doing, by the way? I guess it makes sense Sally is keeping some of the freedom fighters home so they could defend their cities just in case. Everyone stands in front of Mighty and Sonic hears stuff from them even though they weren't talking at all. That's kinda cheating. But wait, why is he still able to hear Amy say that his friends and her love him? I guess because he's used to being annoyed with Amy for coming on too strong. But that doesn't explain anything. Why would Dark Gaia let go of his control over him? Why would he let him hear the word love at all? You'd think he'd just attack them all at this point if he's nothing but negativity right now. But that'd be logical. If you're thinking in realism, you'd be expecting only that. The writer obviously wrote himself into a corner here. So Sally talks him out of it with a sappy speech about how Sonic is a hero and he shouldn't fight the friends he wanted to protect. Or we could have seen his transformation run out because it'd be temporary, like a super form. We could be shown the sun rising. Good thing he stayed there and listened to their boring speech recapping stuff you already knew, because I certainly didn't read all of it. Sonic says they wanted to protect them, and the heroes walk away with him, not turned against him for all this because they're good friends who get what's going on. We cut to Sonic at Moss's house, and he explains that while he could hear Mighty back then, it sounded like he was trying to take him off. Amy somehow thinks a doctor could have helped, and nags him for not going to see one earlier, when obviously he looked completely normal until he suddenly became a werehog. But instead of pointing this out, he apologizes and says he thought he had it under control. He certainly looks sympathetic here, and it's interesting that he has this expression when he's the werehog. He thanks Mighty for keeping him in check. Then he lampshades that Mighty shouldn't be talking like Moss. Then don't write that if you know it's annoying. I think half the reason I think it's so weird for Mighty to talk like this is that he was pretty bad-tempered in Sonic the Comic. He's the opposite here. But he was always carefree and Archie. Sonic turns back to normal. Sally wants to get him and the Emerald back to the Sky Patrol. And Sonic's pretty smart here, if paranoid, saying that he doesn't want to turn back into a werehog when they're in the Sky Patrol. Never mind the fact that he wouldn't have any reason to be stressed out enough when he's safe up there. And most of the time, all they'd have to do is keep him from being in there at night. He clearly doesn't understand why he turned to werehog. Even though every time he almost transformed was clearly a time when he was in serious personal danger and had no other way of saving himself. I guess he thinks he'd turn into a werehog if the Sky Patrol was shot down and he was in it. Also, logically it would be Sally who would be paranoid and cautious here, not just Sonic. Even in Fleetway, Sonic didn't behave like this about his super form. He never decided to ditch the team purely because he might endanger them with a super form, occasionally. Sonic the Comic was way more gutsy than this, because it didn't immediately try to get rid of the super form idea and what made it unique. It had it that way for the entire comic, and I usually said that the comic wasn't gutsy. He says he's staying here to get a handle on himself and not leaving until he does. What an idiot. What makes him think he will? He's not saying that he thinks Moss is a wizard. Then there's a story by Eric Esquivel, or Esquivel, which seems completely worthless and confusing because we already saw Rotor introduce all these people to the Sky Patrol. So why would he do it a second time? He's asked what it's capable of, says even better, but then cuts away to Eggman instead of letting him explain himself. I thought the entire purpose of the story would be to fully explain what it's capable of. If not even that is the case, that was just wasting a bunch of panels for no reason. Meanwhile, Eggman's asked what he's been looking at, and Orbot says he's sulking alone, muttering like a crazy person. As usual, I have to wonder why Eggman didn't program this out of him. Why isn't he always written to slap him every time he snarks at him? That's common sense. Eggman says he's in the middle of an investigation on the Sky Patrol, and he's impressed by it, and then plans to blow it out of the sky. It's good that even he's impressed by it. Rotor shows Tails the toilet and tells him to check out the water pressure, and then bad characterization happens because Tails of all people doesn't think anything science related is cool. This isn't a proper way to make Rotor stand out as the only one like this. This is a horrible dynamic when they're supposed to have a great one. It makes more sense and it's more charming for Tails to be this way because he's a cute little kid, so it'd be charming for him. Rotor says they've got a fully stocked medical bay with 19 topical ointments. That's also smart. Then he inexplicably reveals they have a Zen garden to meditate between missions. Doesn't he know his friends at all? This is at least reminiscent of the greenhouse they had in Archie one time, which they had to remind us that they love nature. But Sonic immediately hates it because he doesn't like quietly sitting still, which is in character, but nobody's saying they love nature here. This is just making the reboot look uncreative and inferior because the last time we saw a concept like this, a green area of the heroes that they built, we saw two interesting types of plants. A passion flower that kissed Sonic after Tails thought it was evil, and a tree that grew an apple of wisdom. It made sense because Rotor's a genius, so he'd want to experiment with making weird new plants. Or maybe just found them like he found the tree seed because Mobius is just that interesting. So it was a little bit of world building for Mobius, instead of, oh, it just has the same plants as we have. That's literally all we saw of it? Really? It makes sense for him to take care of weird plants because scientific curiosity. It would have made sense if it was a greenhouse instead of a Zen garden, because he could be growing emergency food for them. And any food they don't need could be donated. But no, that'd be smart as someone who's supposed to be smart. There's no excuse for this. Why should I ever have hope if even the non-Flynn writers are frustrating? That implies that the problem with the reboot is deeper than Flynn. Then an alarm goes off because of a badnik attack, and Tails is relieved because he was bored, and Sonic agrees. They have a great dynamic here, the best they ever had. It's nice to see Tails like this for once. Eggman threatens the heroes with a giant robot called the War Walrus. And this panel is overwhelming because of all the weirdly shaped squares, which are meant to show zoomed-in versions of the Sky Patrol's weapons. Except I'm not that impressed. I mean, it is impressive, but why does he need 4 different types of weapons? Wouldn't a Vulcan cannon and particle beam cannon be redundant together? I guess he's planning for the scenario where Eggman would make something of his into one of his inventions. And why would he ever bother with an Amachow gun? Like, it's clearly going to be inferior to all the other weapons. So the War Walrus, despite its threatening appearance that lets us see what a metal rotor would look like, instantly gets destroyed, which makes sense at least. And I really hate that comic book and video game are in bold. And maybe instinctively assume Rotor started breaking the fourth wall and the comic was arrogantly advertising the new Sonic stuff that's complete shit. It shouldn't be advertising something that sucks. Well, I feel like Lost World might have some good in it, but I've never played it. But fortunately, no. It turns out Rotor's talking about a comic book and video game library in the Sky Patrol itself, which helps humanize the heroes for wanting that. And he's smart enough to lampshade that the weapons are boring because Eggman has weapons too. And the story ends with Eggman holding a Tails doll. Sonic really was an idiot for not destroying it last time. Well, Eggman could have made another one, so nothing forced the writer to have Sonic stupidly kick it away instead of giving it to Rotor to be taken apart. Seeing this does excite me for another big Tails doll fight, but it shouldn't, because I've already seen Tails doll being used. The first story, by Ian Flynn, was about Sonic turning into the werehog from stress, and somehow he's able to save himself even though he's still being shocked. And even being shocked once would leave him unable to move for a while. Obviously, this whole story never would have happened if any logic was there. The heroes would have just been killed by the electricity. The writer wrote himself into a corner, and had Sonic and the heroes survive for no reason. While it was tense, it was good to have Sonic be angry because it made his werehog less of a get-out-of-jail-free card for any time he was in too much danger. I guess it makes sense he got talked out of it because he's got a history of being annoyed with Amy when she said she loves him. So he was allowed to hear her say that because it was connected to a negative memory. But Sonic logically had no way of keeping his werehog form under control. Sally should have been the cautious one instead. And Mighty was a complete idiot explaining why he was saving the bad guy who clearly deserved what was coming to him. Somehow Sonic stood there and let Mighty talk, and Mighty wasn't holding him still the whole time he talked to him. Like, I'd expect him to stay on his back and keep him pinned down with his super strength. But that required an actual brain. So it was satisfying to see him fight Mighty to punish him for his stupidity. That's how you know the writing fails. It's just another typical Flynn story. Plot holes and stupidity. But I can at least respect how gutsy the story was to have a genuinely tense action scene where Sonic, logically, was corrupted by the evil energy because he's not a perfect little creator's pet Mary Sue who always has to be cool, like in most of the games. He's had an attitude. He's not supposed to be a bland shonen hero all the time. This wouldn't make sense for Tails, but it's long overdue for Sonic. This isn't a new idea at all. I've seen Fleetway Supersonic before, but at least I can respect the fact that because he's not overpowered like he is, it's not completely forced the whole time they didn't kill everyone around him in seconds. And his dialogue was good, not stupid. It at least made more sense than Fleetway Supersonic, who is capable of destroying the whole world, and yet never does. The second story, by Eric Esquivel, was mostly just a boring waste of time. It started out with a continuity error because Rotor acted like he was introducing his friends to the Sky Patrol for the first time, when clearly this isn't what happened when he did that. He didn't get Archie Rotor's memories this time. And none of his friends point out, he already introduced us to the Sky Patrol. Instead, they thought we needed an entire story dedicated to showing us one panel of all the boring weapons on the Sky Patrol. The good news is, we learned about some of the mundane, awesome things that Rotor engineered in this place, which mostly makes him look smart. The Zen Garden just makes the reboot look creatively sterile compared to Archie's greenhouse, and rubs it in our face that the heroes don't care about nature anymore because only Rotor's happy about it. A robot dies to a bunch of missiles, the end. It was good that we got to see the Sky Patrol use his weapons at least one time. I don't know if the reboot's gonna end before it gets to do this again, so I guess it was worth a whole story dedicated to this. Why was Tails not completely sharing Rodent's enthusiasm over even the most minor of technology? What the fuck was going on? I was actually struggling to keep my eyes open when reading this. How many times has Antoine used his actual sword so far? It's just so forgettable.